Hi, I'm Vicki Hoth from Handy Quilter. Welcome to HQ Live. Joining me today is Jamie Wallen. He's on my bucket list of people to stand next to and learn to quilt from.
Aww.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. It is so wonderful to be here.
Hey, you have got a whole plan here. I can see things are going to happen.
I do.
I'm going to just hand it over to you. Go for it.
All right, wonderful. So today what I thought I would do was focus on some feathers, and I wanted to take from my Mystical Feather workshop and just do an intensive on feathers. And I wanted to start with just basic feathers and give you about 3 or 4 feather versions to work with. And then I wanted to take them into blocks and then take you into a border and have you use the different ways that we use them in blocks and go crazy in some borders. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Who doesn't love to learn feathers?
Right? Feathers are the little black dress of the quilting world, I think.
Oh, and you're going to dress this up, aren't
That's
you?
right.
All right, let's go for it.
Okay. So, what I want to start with is we have a curved line here. And again, I want to remind everybody that whenever you're wanting to learn anything like feathers or any type of technique that you're learning, the best place to learn is on paper. You want to sit on paper and you want to practice. I always tell people that for every half hour on paper, it equals 3 hours at the machine.
So when I teach feathers in our studio here, your name comes up every time because I learned that from you, that if you think that you can go to the machine and start quilting without practicing, it's not going to happen.
No.
If I see them in a year, I learned this from you. If I see you in a year and you can't do feathers, it's because you haven't drawn enough.
That's exactly it. And drawing in front of the TV is a great way to miss all that stuff you don't want to see on the TV
All
anyway.
right. All right.
So what I want to do is the very first feather is the traditional long arm feather is what I call it. So I'm going to draw a few first. So I'm going to start here, and when I do that, I'm going to work my way from left to right, and we're going to come back and forward. It's a curved teardrop. My next one, because my base is already there, is going to wrap right around that and scoop around and under. Wrap around, scoop around and under. One of the, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but one of the things I see when people are doing this is they want to go back on that spine. I always say the minute you hit that spine, you're home, get out of there. So you want to go ahead and start your next one and wrap up and go around. Now, when we move over to here, what I'll want to do is I'll want to do the next feather that we'll practice. And with that one, what we're going to do is a swing back feather is what I call it. So we'll start and we'll swing back and swirl back. I'll backtrack up and over the top, but I want to make sure to come about 1/3 of the way down, and then I want to swing up and around. So it's like you're wrapping this rounded feather at the top around a coin.
So you're going to make sure you get a good V in there for Vicki. That's
Absolutely.
how you're going to remember
That's
that,
exactly
right?
how to remember
Right?
it. Yes.
So what if customers struggle, or quilters struggle in backtracking right over the top, like here?
Absolutely. So for me, one of the reasons that I like to do the swirl back is it's a little more forgiving. So if they don't backtrack perfect, it's like it's a ribbon.
Like I meant to do it.
Exactly. And I always remind people that the best way to do backtracking is to stop trying. So here's a little exercise for everybody at home. I want you to look at me, and what I want you to do is for the next 2 minutes, I want you to breathe perfectly. How silly is that, right?
What is perfectly?
Perfectly, exactly, that's it. We breathe naturally. It's natural. It just comes, we do it, we don't think about it. Backtracking is exactly the same thing. We have been driving, us adults have been driving down between 2 lines of a road our whole life. We've been doing cursive, so we know backtracking. We've been writing our whole life. Mm-hmm. So you don't even really have to think about it, and the less you think about it, the better you're going to be at it.
Okay.
So there we go.
Just quilt.
Yes. So I will do these two, and then the third one that I want to show you is actually when we get here, we're going to come up and we're going to revert back to that traditional long arm feather, except we're going to do a double bump. So we're going to come up, double bump, scoop under. It kind of looks like a leaf more than a feather. Come up, double bump. A lot of people refer to it as the man feather because it's a little more masculine on men's quilts. Come up, double bump, scoop under. So that's going to be the third one. Now the fourth one that we're going to use a lot, and I like the square feather to squeeze into funny, awkward spots, and we're going to be doing that with some of the blocks. So the fourth one is going to be a combination of both. It's going to be a swirl back, bump the top, double bump, scoop under. Now one of the things that I see when people are working with feathers is they will do swirl back, or whatever type of feather, back, and when they come back to the spine, what they'll do is they get lost. It's like the brain does I don't know, do I swing this way or that way? So they'll do this broken thumb, right?
Yes.
So I always say when you are heading back down to the spine, it's always a C shape,
Like
a
an
curve.
echo from the previous one.
Exactly. It scoops right under and into the spine, but not too far back. Again, we're not doing small case capital S's.
So I don't have to stitch on that spine. It's already stitched.
It's already there.
Right.
Absolutely. So once you hit it, you're out of there.
Okay. Are you going to put anything in those feathers?
We will later when we get
Okay.
to the box. I'll play with
wait.
those. So
So we're very simple right now.
we're very simple. And when you're at home and you're practicing this, the one thing that I would say to people is this. You're going to practice from left to right, and then you're going to practice from right to left. But we have to remember north, south, east, and west to practice. You don't want to get to the quilt and have only practiced one direction. So then you practice south, north, and north, south. That way it's all worked out on paper. It's already in your muscle memory. And now when you come to the quilt, you're ready to go and you're ready to practice.
So I've got all my feathers leaning that direction. So when I come this way, and I know the answer, but there are quilters that don't know the answer.
Sure.
Which direction are those feathers going to lean?
Those feathers are going to lean always from the bottom of the spine forward. I used to teach to feather in both directions, so I'd go up to the top and feather down. But what I found pretty universally now in the quilting community is people like to feather from the bottom of the spine up. And so I kind of now focus on teaching that way rather than having them teach both ways, if that makes sense.
So from the bottom of the spine, if we're going up here, they're going to lean.
They're going to lean up at an angle at a 45-degree teardrop and around to the left.
Okay. And then
this
this side.
That side, same thing. They're going to lean to the right at a 45
So if
degree.
they're stitching over there, coming back.
Right, and that's just for practice. When I was talking about this, when you are at your machine practicing, what you're going to do is you're going to practice first this way, and instead of backtracking down this spine and starting at the bottom, I have them go ahead and practice double duty and then just come back this way and feather that way.
So on this for practice, they're going to see what they shouldn't be doing as far as your feathers are going this way and then the bottom are going this way. That's
Absolutely.
not normally what you do.
That is not normally what I would do. Normally what I would do is I would do my spine, and then I would start at the bottom of the spine depending on which direction you were feathering, and I would feather up, and then I would either backtrack, double spine, which double spines are great because it gives that beautiful negative space, or if you choose, you can cut thread down at the end, lock your stitches, and then come back here and start from the bottom again, whichever way people
That
prefer.
way they can lean both the same direction.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
I agree.
Because when you look at a feather,
It's gotta come up from the bottom.
Right,
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, are you ready to maybe stitch?
I am ready to do some stitching.
All
So
right.
let's start with.
I'll take charge of the scissors
All
for you.
right, thank you. I'll start from the bottom. Lock. We'll leave that tail there for a second. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to follow those first few lines. And when you're new, don't worry so much about whether or not you're going to mark a little bit. We don't want to be too hard on ourselves. Right now you're just learning. These aren't going to hang in museums. For a few quilts. Wrap around, scoop under. Wrap around, scoop under. They are not daisy petals. They are curved teardrops. Wrap it around, scoop under. Backtrack up, scoop under. So this way I happen to be going clockwise. Now,
Okay, I have a question for you.
absolutely.
If the customer or the quilter is struggling to stitch exact on that, for beginners it's a real struggle.
It is.
Is it okay to put a space between those
Absolutely.
feathers?
If you are looking to be more consistent, then leave a space on purpose.
Right.
That way, you know, you don't have to worry so much about backtracking. But I will say this, after about 2 or 3 rows, the backtracking is going to be really good. But maybe the first time you go to that customer quilt, everybody locks up because they're so afraid of hurting a customer quilt, or their own quilt, of course. Then maybe just make the decision that you're going to leave just a little bit of minute space between each one of the feathers. Absolutely. There are no rules, and there are no quilt police. And if you ever run across a quilt policeman, just say, I need to see your badge.
Okay. Okay, I have another question for you. Today, we're putting a little higher contrast thread color
Yes.
on this fabric.
Yes.
And I know in a lot of your quilts, you use a lot of metallic,
I
which
do.
I love.
Yes.
Do you use, do you tend in your feathers, if you're doing a border, do you like to have it more closer to the color of the fabric? Or
I do. I do. Usually, well, I guess it depends on the client and it depends on the quilt. If I get a quilt that has a lot of traditional colors or earth tones or homespuns, let's say, then what I'll do is I want to match fabric because I'm dealing with a more traditional piecer and she doesn't want to see you know, she doesn't want the woo in your face kind of
Right.
quilting. If I'm dealing with somebody who wants a little bit more contemporary look, or they want something a little more flashy, a little more modern, and then I'll take it up a few notches with color. So it really does, for me, depend on the quilt. And it depends on whether or not I have a busy border print. If I have a busy border print, I want to blend with the fabric as much, otherwise I'm in trouble and I'm going to compete with the
Right,
fabric. And they
right.
probably picked that fabric because they loved the fabric if they choose that type of a border print. But what I'm noticing is a lot of people are now realizing quilting does make or break the quilt. And so they're giving us more show-off space, i.e. they're using more hand-dyeds, they're using more batiks, they're using more tone-on-tone so that our quilting will show off just a little bit more.
And that's what we want.
I know
But
it.
as a beginner,
Yes.
it's okay to put a busy print
match
on.
your thread. And
Match your thread. It's okay
Yep.
because then you're practicing.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a busy back works really good too,
Oh,
right?
it sure does. A busy back is our best friend.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we're ready for the next type of feather. And you had this one that was called what?
I always called this one the traditional long arm feather because this is the feather that I started doing 20 years ago that I was taught.
Okay.
And then the next one is the swing back feather. And it took me a little while to get friendly with those because I really got addicted to these, and that was what I kind of taught for years and years and years.
Okay.
But now I love all of them.
Yeah.
So now
Do you
I'm going to
mix them?
start. I mix them all the time. Pretty rarely do I use one specific feather unless it's a real traditional quilt, and then I want to keep it a little
there's
more
no
stable.
quilt police. We can
That's
do
right.
this.
Absolutely.
All right.
Now I'm going to start, and remember when I come up, I'm going to swing back and around, backtrack the top, up and scoop under, swing away and back.
So you're putting a good
Backtrack.
curl into that.
I am putting a nice curl. Now what a lot of people will do, and I just want to show this real quick, if I can zero in here, what I would want to know is that new quilters will make the mistake of following this spine away and then coming up with a 6. It doesn't, it's a typical new quilter thing to do. They'll move beyond that eventually, but try to remember, I always just remind them, don't do that. Swing away naturally. Think of a 6. It's one of the only times I'll ask you to use a 6, but swing away naturally, and wherever it happens to end up on the spine is where it
Okay.
is. And then it's going to give you a smoother move rather than an obvious. I'll do one. I'll see this. Here,
Oh.
do you see? And it doesn't look natural.
Right.
Whereas if I gently swing away and backtrack the top and scoop
Oh,
under,
absolutely.
it's a totally different look than doing that. So now let me do a few more here. And remember, we all have bad backtrack days, so that's pretty normal. So that's the humpback feather. Now what I'm going to do is come up and do that double bump. I think of it like a molar tooth.
That's what I do.
Double bump, scoop around. I don't think of it as a heart. I think of it as a pothole. Ba-bump, scoop under. Backtrack up, ba-bump, scoop under. Backtrack up, ba-bump, scoop under. Ba-bump, scoop under. Now I'm going to combine. Swing back, bump the top, double bump, scoop under. Swing back, bump the top, double bump, scoop under. Swing back, bump the top, double bump, scoop under.
So Jamie, before we go on to our other feathers,
Okay.
I want to actually really let them see that. This is the no, you don't want to do that.
That's correct.
And this is more of that V again.
It is exactly that V.
Right here. That looks a little stiff, doesn't
Right,
it?
it looks straight up rather than you're panning for gold and scooping under.
And curves, and yeah, it looks
Yep.
so much better. So yeah, that's a real visual there. Thank you. All right, so you say you have some more
I
feathers?
do. I want to show two more because sometimes
'Cause you
what'll
got more
happen.
room.
I do. I have some more room here, and every once in a while, you just have a day, even after 20-something years of doing this every day, I'll have a day where it's just, I don't want to do any backtracking whatsoever. And so I refer to this next one as a boomerang feather. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of a boomerang. Swing away, curve back touch, echo the outside, it comes back to you.
Oh,
Swing away, curve back touch, echo the outside, it comes back to you. Swing away, curve back touch, echo the outside, it comes back to you. But what if we have something really beautiful and feminine, like a nice floral or something that's very pastel, and we want something that's a little more fancy than that? Then I'm going to show you a ribbon. So what I'm going to do is swing back, curve down, touch, divot in, cross over.
oh, that's a
Swing
total.
away, curve down, touch, divot, cross over. And that little divot is just the end of a ribbon.
pretty.
And so now you have these beautiful ribbon feathers that you can use in something that would be a little more feminine.
And there is not one bit of backtracking.
Not one bit. Isn't that great?
Yes. Oh, okay. I've got to see this because it's definitely something you've got to wrap your mind around
Yes.
to get that little bit of a divot there.
Yes.
That's really pretty.
And all of these things, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to give you printouts of these on paper so that you can just have them take the PDF and trace for a while.
Okay, so you'll be able to see that below the video, and you'll be able to download that. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
absolutely. We want more people quilting.
That's right.
Curve back touch, echo the outside, it comes back to you, just like a boomerang. Swing away, curve down touch, echo the outside, it comes back to you. Swing away, curve down touch. That curve down touch is important. What I'll see a lot of new people do is they'll come around and they'll flatline it in there.
So they don't get the V, do they?
They don't get the V, and also they don't get the rounded feather top. You want to make sure to imagine like a quarter, a dime, a nickel, whatever size that is,
Okay.
that you're swinging it around to round it. Now, let's do that ribbon. Swing away, curve down touch, divot in, that's the end of the ribbon, cross over and under. Swing away, curve down touch, divot in, and then cross over. Swing away, curve down touch, divot in, and then cross over. Now, you can also take that little guy, you can swirl it, divot, cross over. So you add a little
Oh, I
bit of
like
a curl
that.
to that, and it makes it a little bit more forgiving. So there's tons of ways that they can work on a spine and practice different types of feathers.
And you can mix those up.
You can totally mix those up. Now, if I were working with someone that were just learning this, what I would say is once you reach the end, rather than backtracking all the way down, you might as well take care of 2 directions practicing at the same time. Start here, and then you're going to start back the other way. So you're just going to pretend that this was the side that you started on, and that's going to give you a little bit more bang for your buck. One thing I would like to add is this, and this is something, I think information is so important for people to have when they're practicing, because one thing I hear all the time, and I'm not picking on people, but Jamie, I've been practicing feathers for years and I just can't seem to get them, and I have to say, really? You haven't been practicing feathers for years, because here is the thing. The human brain will learn a new quilt design, because actually what they're learning is a new cursive. It takes approximately, on paper, 20 to 40 minutes to get something into your muscle memory. But what will happen is people will sit and they'll work on something for 5 minutes and they'll say, oh, that's enough, I'm done.
I'm
That's
moving
good.
on to
I'm
another
moving on to
design?"
leaf. Let me go from feathers, and then I'm going to do leaves, and then I'm going to do swirls. And the next thing you know,
They haven't got anything
they haven't got
mastered.
anything. So like I said, just keep it in your mind that 20 to 40 minutes and you're going to get there. And that, just knowing that in your own head is going to get you there so much
So
quicker.
practice on one design rather than
Correct.
moving. So practice this for 20 minutes,
Yep.
30 minutes.
Yep.
Then go to this one. But
Exactly.
don't mix them up yet.
Exactly, exactly,
That's
because then
really-
that's going to get into your muscle memory. And these, the order that I've given you, these, and most teachers are the same way. They'll give them to you in order of start here, and this one builds on this one, then this one builds on this one, and you're going to be able to build a portfolio so much faster.
Do you always recommend to do a curved spine, or do you ever say, let's start with a straight line?
Either one will work. I use a curve when I start teaching with people because I want them to kind of get used to that traveling up and down, but a straight spine if they're more comfortable with that, or if they have primer tablets. A lot of
Oh,
people
yes.
practice on the little primer tablets like we do in school. Then they can practice on a straight line. That's fine too.
Okay. So how about you just stitching down there, and let's stitch a little back. I'll clip your
You got
threads
it.
here,
All
and
right.
let's see how you go the other direction.
Back the other direction.
Now, normally this on a real quilt, you wouldn't be doing that. Your feathers would both be leaning the same way.
Absolutely. So we would always work from this side down this way. But when we're practicing, again, these are going to be wonderful as a dog bed, right?
Right.
These are perfect for a dog
right.
bed. Put a binding around it.
They're not picky about
Take
it,
it to
are
the
they?
local shelter. They'll love it.
That's okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to head back the other way, and I just won't go all the way down here. I'll just start here.
Okay.
So what I'll do now is I'll work this way, scoop around, backtrack in, scoop around, backtrack in, wrap it, scoop. Wrap it, scoop. If you miss the spine, don't sweat it. Keep going.
So do you always have to touch the spine?
I don't always touch the spine. It depends on the day. People don't typically notice that. So now what we're going to do then is we'll do the swirl back, bump the top, new frond. Swing away and back, bump the top, new frond. And what this is giving me is that different direction so that I can utilize, absolutely, different muscle memory. I'm learning 2 different directions, and then after I do 3 or 4 rows of this, then I can do vertical from south to north
Oh, okay.
and north to south. And then of course, if I want to add those double bumps, backtrack out, double bump, and remember to scoop back. Otherwise, you'll end up
With your feet.
straight down, and it
Right.
will look like molars. And we see that with new folks.
Yep,
but
they do
don't
look
sweat
like
it.
molars.
Yep. Scoop around and back, and then we'll do the boomerang.
So they need to lay a little bit.
Lay back. Curve around, touch, lay back. And then of course the ribbon. Back, divot, crossover, back, divot, crossover. Now, how about this? Back, curve up, echo,
Oh.
echo. Back, curve up, echo, echo. We
Oh,
never
that
want
sounds
anybody to get bored. There are so many things we can do with feathers.
So you can add a lot of different
You
things
can add
in
so
there.
many things. We could have added a swirl. We could have thrown a leaf in.
Add a swirl.
You got it. Curve back, swirl in, around, and over.
Okay.
What about this? Curve back, swirl. What if it's a Harley quilt or a real masculine quilt? We'll add some flames.
Oh
Come
my.
back and
Who thought
scoop
that
around.
feathers on a Harley quilt?
There we go.
Okay, so let's say this is the edge of your border.
Yes.
You've got a lot of empty space. I
Yes.
think this is so awesome because you could fill it up. If you want your
Absolutely.
feathers to be smaller, then
Absolutely, I agree. You can go as close to that border as you want.
yeah, and I know some quilters will go back and do an
Echo.
echo around, but
Yep.
you've already done that here,
Absolutely.
all in
Yep.
one step.
All done.
Oh, that's
All
beautiful.
done.
Okay, so we've got our feathers. We've been practicing, right? We've been practicing. We've been drawing this whole time.
Yep.
20 minutes on each one.
Yep.
And now we're ready to move on to maybe some blocks.
Let's do some blocks.
So we'll advance our fabric and we'll get started.
Wonderful.
All right, Jamie, we've advanced the fabric. We're ready to go.
Yep.
Let's fill those blocks
You
with
got
feathers.
it. So what I want to start with for our first 3 blocks that I'm going to show is I'm going to start with a basic simple block for our clients that want something a little less high custom, something
Okay.
that they don't want to pay as much, maybe a little lower end custom. And then we're going to move into the lotus feather to do the second block. And then we're going to really go a little bit more fancy and we're going to go into an open lotus.
Open lotus.
Open lotus. So it's like the regular lotus, except it's actually starting to bloom.
Okay.
Almost like a water
And
lily.
you're seeing the little veins in
That's
it.
right.
and-
That's right.
Wow, there's a lot going on.
There is a
from
lot.
this one to this one.
And once you see the formula, it's going to be so easy.
Okay, let's get started.
All right. So with the first, which is going to be the simple version, what I'm going to do is whatever marking tool folks like to use, we're going to make an X from corner to corner. And for new people, what I want to do is first, I'll say this. The edge of the block on the inside is our spine. That is our spine. These are simply compartment lines.
So this is your boundary for each.
That is correct. So you have actually 4 triangles. So what I'm going to do though is people will get lost when they're brand new at this. So what I like to do is decide whether you're going to go clockwise or whether you're going to go counterclockwise.
Oh, that's a good thought to
Yep.
think about. Plan
A-
ahead.
Exactly. And in this case, I'm going to go clockwise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here and I'm going to just simply mark 2 feathers. Go up to my next triangle and mark 2 feathers.
What a good idea.
Go to my next triangle, mark my first 2 feathers. Next triangle, mark my next first 2 feathers, because what'll happen, and I want to say it so that they'll get it, and then that way if they do make that mistake, then they'll know, oh, in the future I just want to go ahead and mark my few feathers at the beginning. What'll happen is they'll get up here, and if they haven't marked, they'll start feathering this rather than the actual spine, which is the
I get
inner
it.
edge of the
Yeah,
block.
Yeah. That's a really good saver on picking. Because I
Absolutely.
would be
Oh,
on-
yeah. And you know, you find the marking tools that work for you, and
So
there's
maybe
no-
eventually you'll have it figured out. You wouldn't have to mark.
Absolutely. I
But-
usually say by about the 4th or 5th one, you're good to go.
So that's that practice on paper again.
Absolutely.
Draw. Okay.
All right. So now I'm going to come, lock my machine stitches. Okay. And now I'm going to swing up and back, backtrack, feather. Swing up and back, backtrack, feather. I am stretching it right up to that triangle. Back, feather. Swing up and back. And you're going to start to develop, once you do 2 or 3 of these, a hand-eye coordination so that you're going to be filling in this top one pretty good every time.
Okay, so probably when you get to this point here, you can see, all right, I've filled that much. Do I want to put 2 feathers in with a little tiny curl, or do I want to make a big one and fill up the point, right?
Absolutely.
Because I could see that I'd do partial, and then to try and fill that, it would not look very nice. So you
Right.
got to kind of think ahead.
Right, absolutely. And the first 4 or 5 blocks, who cares?
That's
Because you're
right.
learning the process, and once that muscle memory kicks in, then you can focus on the next thing. I always say, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. So now I'm going to keep going. Now remember with this, I'm using the swing back feathers, but you can use any type of feather you want. You can go up and do the double bumps. Now I'm there, so I'm going to swing the corner, and I just
Okay.
continue right around clockwise. I could also, if I chose, I could do the ribbons. So if I wanted to do something a little more fancy,
That was well planned. You got right into that
right
corner.
into that corner. Swing up, I could do the boomerangs if I'm having a bad backtracking day. I could just do traditional long arm feathers.
To inch yourself in there and fill it up.
Absolutely. And I would work my way all the way around that block. Swing around, bump, new frond. I could do the combination feather where we swing around and back, bump the top. Now, double bump, that's a little narrow, so I'll double bump again. So I almost did a quad bump.
Okay.
Quad is 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes
Sometimes I forget that. There you go. And it's forgiving.
Yeah, it really is.
Double bump and then continue on. Bump. New frond. Now I'm coming up to my close. Swing back.
So by the 4th triangle there, you should have something a little, feel more confident, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So put on a whole piece of cloth and make yourself some squares.
Absolutely.
And just really practice.
And be
Feathers.
gentle to yourself.
Oh, that's a good
You know, I
idea.
always remind myself, you know, I love my handy quilters, and even though I'm used to running my handy quilter, when I go to a different handy quilter, it's going to feel a little different. My backtracking isn't perfect because I haven't run this handy quilter for, and I usually say whenever I walk up to a new machine, it's going to take me about 15 minutes to a half an hour just to get the feel of the swing, if that makes sense.
And you know, one thing that's so important is to have your machine leveled, because that swing is a lot easier,
It
isn't
is
it?
indeed. That it is.
Yeah, so level that machine.
You got it. So now this is the end of our basic.
Basic.
So let me pull that up, move away, come back.
Now we're ready to move on to a little more advanced.
Something a little more advanced.
Well, I can't wait to see what the advance is going to do.
that
A little,
away.
so
So there is that one.
look at all the different. This is just amazing. This is one I'm going to have to practice, because getting that
Crossover.
little crossover.
It's the crossover
no,
that'll
I
throw
think
you
it's
for
that
a
little
second.
first
And the
part,
divot.
the divot.
The divot.
I think
the end
that-
of the ribbon.
Yeah. But once you get that, it's just going to be second nature to you.
Absolutely.
And what a beautiful quilt that would be to have all of it like that.
I agree. It's just something a little more,
This
little more
quad,
different. There you go.
I think I would have straightened it out.
There you go. Yep, absolutely.
But you know what? When it's all said and done, nobody's going to see,
No.
and it's going to be just fine.
And sometimes you'll need that. When we go into our Lotus, you're going to need stuff like this to fill in a space. Because the last thing that I'm going to want here, especially for a higher end custom quilt, is going to be floppy fabric. So
Open
if I don't reach in far enough, then I'm going to have that little bit of floppiness here in the center.
Okay.
And especially if it's one of your more advanced piecers, they're going to want to not have that. So that sometimes that double bump
really
will kind of close in that space
That
a
is
little
a good
bit.
point. Yeah, because that really would lay that down nice.
Absolutely.
All right, let's
Okay,
go.
let's
Ready
do the
for the
second
next
one.
What this is called the
This is called the basic lotus.
basic lotus.
Basic lotus. So now with the basic lotus, I'm going to put my X in, just like we did with the initial block.
Okay.
Now the difference is, once I get my X, now I want to put a T. So I'm going to line that up straight, and now I'm going to divide that with a T right through the center.
Okay, more defining boundaries.
Absolutely. Now, when we start this one, and actually what I'd like to do is to draw one first before we quilt it,
Okay.
and that way they can see it a little
So can we
better.
see the paper?
Absolutely.
Let's look at the paper and see.
So this would be the one we're doing.
This is it, and you're going to draw that out. I see where you want that to go up to the corners like you were talking about, those points.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
So now we're going to have 4. And by the way, I would mention as well, we would have ditched the edge of our block to start with.
Okay.
If you choose, as you work your way around this block, when we do this one, you can actually have a ditch ruler handy to work around, or if you're good at it, you can kind of slide in with the without a ruler. Okay, we're going to start right here, right down at the bottom of
So
the
here
V.
we started in the corner. You're starting now in the center.
Right.
Okay.
I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start with a teardrop. And now what I'm going to do is use this miter point in the center. I'm going to swing my feather up, backtrack the top, double bump up into that tip, and scoop around and under the teardrop. Then I continue up, swirl back, bump, curve around, swing up and back, bump. Look what's happening. Oddball shape. What am I going to throw in an oddball shape? Double bump. That's going to fill in that space. Double bump into the tip, follow this ditch, come over here, and now I'm going to mirror the other side. Swing away and back, bump the top, double bump, scoop around. Swing up and back, bump the top, scoop around, swing away and back, bump the top, double bump, scoop around. And then what I would do is, of course, I wouldn't even have to go all the way here if I've ditched.
Because you've ditched. Yeah.
Absolutely. I could pull my ditch ruler over, travel, and go up to this next area, and then I would go ahead and start here and do that.
Okay.
So what I thought we would do is do you want me to do one complete one here, or do you want me to do a whole block?
One complete one, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come down with the machine, lock my stitches.
Because you have a paper. We
Absolutely.
have a design that we're giving to our watchers, so they'll be able to see what it's all going to look
And
like.
I'd hate
But
for them to get bored.
bored with you?
Well,
Haven't yet. No, we're gonna.
you got to tell my
Want
dog
those
that.
scissors? Oh. Wasn't the dog the one that loves you so much?
That's right, that's right. All right, so now swing away and back, swirl up to the miter, bump the top, come around, double bump right up, and scoop right around so that that tip is filled. Swing away and back, bump the top, scoop around, swing away and back, bump the top, double bump out to the tip. Now you could grab your ditch ruler, but I'm going to cheat a little bit and come this way. And now I mirror that other side. Swing away and back, bump the top, double bump, scoop around, swing away and back, bump the top, scoop around and under. I'm always scooping down towards that teardrop. Swing away and back. Now here's that oddball corner. Come around and down. And this is the point where I would grab my ditch ruler, follow this, and then I would start on the side, complete this one. And then once this one's complete, follow over here, do my teardrop, complete this one, come over here, follow down, do my teardrop, complete this one, and that would give me
the complete
this lotus. Let me move this machine out of the way. Sorry about that. So that would give me that basic complete lotus, which is just a step up customized
Okay, so
from
this
that.
one that we did first, you start in your corners.
Yep.
This one, everything is based out of the center of that
Correct.
triangle. You always
Correct.
make that little loop here.
Yes. Yes.
So that, and then you've got your boundaries, so you know how far you can go. The one thing that I noticed with this is that I could see maybe a quilter would have a tendency to maybe go up to a point, but I
Yes.
noticed you kept that rounded
I did.
as you went up there. And
Today.
So
I have
that
the
could be
days.
another
There you
look.
go.
So they could do a point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
More like a fern type
Sure.
feather.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, there you go.
And you can
See?
actually use a fern in this. So there's so many options with this. It's
Right.
just a base or a model that you can put anything in.
So could they do another feather and a curl and then make their little?
Oh,
I mean,
they could
you could add others.
They could add as many feathers in here as they want. Now, here is the one thing that I'll say, and I'll use this as a troubleshooter.
Okay.
Teardrop, swing up and back, bump, new frond. Swing up and back. Do you see what's happening? It's starting to get really crowded. And now when I come back, and what'll happen is you'll have people that really swing out and wide, and then there's just this real narrow space, so that when they do their double bump, it feels awkward to try to sneak around
Right.
there. So if it's a big block, yes,
You
add
could.
maybe one or two. But the key is, so let me show on this side, if I were going to add more feathers. Swing up and back, bump, new frond, keep it tight.
Okay.
Swing up and back, bump the top, double bump, scoop around. So that's the difference. You want to make sure to keep these snug this
Okay,
way towards
good.
here so that you don't have them too wide on the
Right.
end.
Okay. Good point. Okay. All right. Well, Jamie, let's move over to this square, and I know we'll get it cleaned up for you. I know that you have a lot more detail going on in this one.
Absolutely.
And as I was looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, I can see this in here, but you have added.
Absolutely. We've opened
More
that lotus
personality.
up so it's almost blooming at that point.
Okay.
So the marks on that,
Again, you're going to do the same thing.
exactly. So I'm going to do the X and then the T through the center.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
What's your favorite marking tool?
My favorite marking tool, if I'm on white, is this Marks Be Gone, but it must be the Marks Be Gone, this one. And then my favorite marking tool, if I'm on colored fabric, would be the Bowen chalk pencil.
I love that.
I love it because you can sharpen it, and it's pure chalk, so it comes out of everything. No matter what's on
Right.
that fabric, it's
Right.
going to come out.
Okay. Well, you use the same tools I use.
I love that. So I'm going to mark this one, and then I'll quilt that one. That way it won't look so messy when I'm
Okay.
marking
Or we
it.
take water and spritz it, and it'll all go away, right?
That's true. That is true. So I'm going to start here. So now with this particular block design, we start off the same. So I'll start with my teardrop. And with this one, I'm going to put the bud on both sides first. So I'm going to start here, swirl back, bump the top, double bump. I want it to be a little bit more showy. So I'm going to slide up with a vein.
Oh.
And then I cross over and I do the other side. Swing around and back, bump the top, double bump, scoop around and under the teardrop, come up with my vein. Now I'll show you why I do both sides of that first in just a minute. So now I'm going to come off to the side. Now before, what we did is we came up here and worked our way down. What I'm going to do now, though, with an open lotus is we want to open it. So I'm going to come over to the side with a double bump towards the bottom, scoop around, vein. Backtrack out, double bump to the edge to fill in that weird space, come back and out. Backtrack out, double bump up the edge, come back, vein. And then of course I squeeze in my last one, slide down the side of that bud, throw in a vein, come down.
That's beautiful.
And now I come over to the other side. And the reason we do this side of the bud first is what happens is people will double bump here, come down, and they'll forget to do the other side of the bud, and they'll come out to the side, and you won't have the other side of the bud, and it'll be
Okay.
messed up. So I
Right.
always put the full bud in place
Okay.
first. So then, of course, I come out, double bump, and P.S. I curve around and in to this point. Backtrack out, double bump, arc around and in.
So you're
to
going
that
all the way
point.
down in.
Kind of, sort of. I don't necessarily need to go all the way, but I do need to arc down because otherwise you'll have people that will do this and they'll do those molar teeth to the side and it won't look, it won't give it that beautiful look. Double bump, curve down,
Finish
double
it
bump,
up.
curve down. What I forgot.
Your spines. I
Veins.
figured you'd figure it out.
So I can pop those in at
Which
the
is
end.
easy.
That's it. All done.
Wow,
and then
that's
of
so
course,
laid open.
and it just
Pretty.
looks so pretty when it's quilted out. And then of course you would follow the ditch to the next spot. So you ready for me to quilt it out?
No training wheels. You're just going to
No
do
training
it.
wheels. I'm just going to do it.
Okay, I'm ready. Oh, whew. So before you start, I've noticed on
Yes.
your paper here that you've got a little bit of. Would you do like a double
I
reading?
play.
Oh,
I
okay.
get
This
bored.
is just drawing.
Absolutely. So I'll show you that.
Okay.
So I call it. Am I allowed to say bumblebee bottom?
Yeah.
It
you
looks
can
like a bumblebee bottom
Oh,
to
that's
me.
exactly what I thought. There's a bumblebee in that
That's
lotus.
right, that's right.
Getting its sap, getting its nectar.
That's right. So what I'll do is I will do my teardrop, and then I'll do a little teardrop arc, little teardrop, and then I make a decision to fill in one or the other of those.
Okay.
And that's how I get that kind of
Okay.
that bumblebee bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna slide up, bump the top, double bump, scoop around, give myself a vein. Now remember, I want to do my other side of my bud so I don't forget it
Right.
when I go over to the other side. Boom, double bump, scoop around, give me a vein, and now I'll just come over here, and now I will do my double bump to the bottom, scoop around and in.
So stop.
Yes.
Is there any reason why you came back over here? Could you have just stayed
You
here?
could have
and done
gone on either side, and I just did that because I thought the camera would like that side done first better.
Probably did. Okay, I just wondered. So
But
once
you can
you're
go
there,
either
you
way.
can totally fill
It's
that
totally
in.
up to you.
Okay.
And then come up.
No quilt,
Double
please. You can
bump.
do what you want.
That's right. Over. Double bump. Come down. P.S. Ribbon feathers, whatever type of feathers you want to do. I just like the look personally of this feather with this open
I do
lotus.
too. I think it's
Come
really
down.
nice.
Double bump. Curve back. Vein. Double bump. Curve back. Vein. Double bump up the side. Curve back. Vein. Double bump. Come down. Vein. Lock my stitches. And again, I have to apologize for my bit of bad backtrack in there.
We're not.
Another 15 minutes, I'd have this machine. I'd
Right.
be totally familiar and take it home probably because you get attached.
Right.
All right.
Oh.
And so there is that. And then of course you would do that on all four and you would have this beautiful block.
And so, like you say, it wouldn't have to be this type of a feather. It could
Absolutely
be
not.
just a normal round over, or add your ribbons or whatever.
Absolutely.
So this
Or
is
ferns.
or ferns.
Or ferns,
Right.
yeah.
It would be. So this is the time to draw.
Yes.
And then rerun this and draw
Absolutely.
again
Yep.
and draw.
Absolutely.
And so
I will make sure you get the PDFs so that you can, did I say that right? PDFs, right?
Mm-hmm.
PDFs so that way you can pass those on. You could pass those on to everybody and then they can
Right.
practice tracing. Tracing is one of the best ways to build muscle memory. It is the absolute best.
Jamie, thank you so much. This has been like a dream come true to stand here next to you and watch you do feathers. And
Vicki, it's an honor to be with you all the time. You're amazing. You've done
you.
so much for our community.
You wouldn't let me touch the machine, though.
Well, next time. Next
Maybe I better practice. I should draw.
That's
and
right.
then I should practice.
See, that's it. That's it.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Remember to leave your comments. If there's any comments you have to leave, and thank you so much. And subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get all of the updates, everything that we're doing. And join us next month. And again, thank you.
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Join us next month for another HQ Live.